Sometimes all it takes is one sentence, just one, and that's exactly what happened here. A single statement has ripped open decades of history and kicked off a diplomatic firestorm between two nuclear armed neighbors. So let's unpack this. It's a story about ancient civilization, modern borders, and really the explosive power of just a few carefully chosen words. This is the remark that started it all, from India's Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. Now, this wasn't some official policy statement, nor it was a military declaration, but it sent immediate shockwaves all across the region. So it begs the question, what is the story behind Sindh? And why did this one sentence hit such a raw, exposed nerve? To really get why that statement landed with such a third, we have got to rewind. We need to look at Sindh's incredibly deep foundational connection to Indian civilization. Look at this timeline. It shows how incredibly layered Sindh's history really is. We are talking about the home of Mohenjo-daro, one of the world's first major cities. It was a total crossroads for empires from Persians to Alexander. And then in 711 AD, Sindh becomes the gateway of Islam to the Indian subcontinent. That event added a whole new profound layer to its identity, one that would completely shape its destiny for centuries to come. And this connection isn't just something you find in dusty history books. It's woven right into the fabric of modern India today. The region of Sindh is literally named in the country's national anthem. Just think about it. Every single day, hundreds of millions of people sing its name. It's a constant audible reminder of a shared past. The connection goes right down to the very name itself. Sindh comes from Sindhu, which is the ancient name for the Indus River. For Hindus, this is a sacred waterway. But what's really fascinating is the idea that many Muslims in Sindh revered it too. That points to this amazing blended culture that existed long before anyone started drawing hard lines on a map. So that brings us to the big question. How did this ancient land with all of these deep Indian roots end up becoming part of Pakistan? Well, it wasn't an accident, and it certainly was not a foregone conclusion. It was the result of a series of very, very specific political choices that were made in the years leading up to 1947. This was a very deliberate political journey. It happened in steps. First, in 1936, Sindh separates from the bigger Bombay Presidency, which gives it its own political voice. Then Sindh uses that new autonomy to become the very first province to pass a resolution formally demanding the creation of Pakistan. So that final vote in 1947, that was really just the finish line of a political movement that had been building for a decade. Provinces like Punjab and Bengal were partitioned. But for Sindh, it was different. It was transferred whole as a single piece to Pakistan. While this unique situation avoided the same kind of horrific manslaughter as was in Punjab and Bengal, it ended up creating a completely different kind of trauma. The province itself wasn't partitioned, but its people were. We are talking about over a million Sindhi Hindus, many of them a prosperous community of traders and business people who were displaced. They had to leave their ancestral homeland behind for a new life in India. And a lot of them were forced to start over completely from scratch. Okay, so let's come back to the present day. Now that you have all that history in your head, that diplomatic firestorm we talked about, well, it's probably starting to make a whole lot more sense now. And the reactions couldn't have been more polarized. It was night and day. On one hand, Pakistan's government came out swinging, condemning the remarks as delusional and proof of an aggressive expansionist mindset. But then, on the other hand, a leader of Sindhi separatist group praised the exact same words, calling them a ray of hope. It just goes to show how deeply divided the perspectives on Sindh's future really are. So what was the real goal here? Was this a genuine threat to redraw the map of South Asia? Or was it just some very carefully calculated political rhetoric? To figure that out, we have to look at what's actually happening on the ground in Sindh today. Rajnath Singh's words didn't land in a vacuum. They landed on an incredibly fertile ground for unrest. Sindh is not a happy settled province. It's restive. There are deep, long-standing grievances against the central government in Islamabad over pretty much everything, from water rights and economic exploitation to a deep resentment over the dominance of Punjabi ethnic group in the country's power structures. And these numbers, they really tell the story. This is why that grievance is so powerful. Sindhis make up 14% of Pakistan's population, but they hold just 2% of the positions in the armed forces and only 5% in the civil service. That is a massive disparity, and it's exactly the kind of thing that fuels a really powerful sense of alienation. Okay, but here's the crucial reality check in all of this. Yes, there's a separatist movement in Sindh for sure, but its main goal is not to rejoin India. The number one call you hear from these groups is a completely independent country, Sindhu Desh, one that's built on a very distinct Sindhi ethnic and cultural identity. So while they might welcome support from India, their ultimate objective is independence, not merger. Why, which brings us right back to the central question. Was this statement really about shifting borders? Or was it a pretty masterful use of ancient history as a tool or maybe even a weapon in a modern geopolitical game? It really forces us to think about that blurry, complicated line between a shared ancient culture and the hard political reality of the borders we live with today.